Good afternoon, friends. David Wright here, and I am your host of the Disruptive Innovators Champions of Digital Business podcast. And today I am lucky enough to be joined across the pond by our friend Ingo Paas. Ingo, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Hi, David. Thanks for having me on the Disruptive Innovators podcast. It's a pleasure being with you and speaking with you, sitting at the busy heart of New York City. So very excited about this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm honored that you'd take time out of your evening, being that you're joining us from Stockholm to share your experience with our listeners. So, Ingo, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with yourself, maybe you could just start by telling everyone a little bit about your current role.
Absolutely. I start with a funny note. I was in a recent article um, called Chief Scalable Officer. And so someone was actually very creative there, and I actually love this title because it perfectly captures, my approach to exploring disruptive stuff and technologies and prioritizing platform-centric scalability of investments as a core principle. But in reality, and for the past 12 years, I've served as the CIO and CDO at Green Cargo, where we operate cargo trains across Sweden and into intercontinental Europe. So from a business perspective, we successfully navigated transformative challenges by leveraging technology-enabled capabilities and innovation. And our efforts have been internationally recognized and earning us three prestigious awards in 22, 23, and 24.
Yeah, I had seen mm, that IDC Future Enterprise EMEA award last year, which is super, super cool, and excited to dive more into, exactly what you guys are up to. We do, Ingo, like to start the episode with just one piece of actionable advice you might look to leave everyone with today.
Yeah. Let me explain my thoughts and then I give the advice. Um, so you think about your mobile phone, it might look like older models, but it's completely different inside. Um, and advances in processing power, AI, and whatever connectivity have transformed how we interact and how we use technology today. But these hidden advancements actually, and I think they challenge the status quo in a profound way. So 10 years ago, accessible AI and quantum computing did not really exist in our reality. Today, we see that AI is transforming business and how we work and how we communicate and how we share information. But also, it's been unnoticed by the majority of people. So global players are closing in on AGI, artificial general intelligence, um, as boundaries, I think, between AI and AGI seem to transcend faster than anticipated. And here's my advice. I would like to advise our listeners, if they allow me to do so, to not underestimate transformational change just because of its invisible.
I mean, I love it. I had a tangential conversation to this extent with with a colleague a few days ago. Just as a technologist, right? I did build computers, and I set up networks, and I've coded years ago, right? So I've done a lot of the elements. I never built silicon computer chips. I know conceptually how electricity works, but the formulation of that at its onset just still blows my mind. You know what I mean? And this evolution in technology to me is no different, no different than. So I hear you loud and clear, and it it also kind of dovetails into, well, a couple other things. One, I'll go to these CEO forums annually where McKinsey will give us a readout on, we participate very actively in the healthcare industry or other industries, like what the trajectory of companies using AI versus companies not using AI looks like in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'll tell you, it's not insignificant. Um, And when you talk about like in the US and all the socioeconomic pressures facing or bearing down, I should say, on the healthcare industry, such as, you know, doctor shortages, nursing shortages, like, and like the future of that is looks very grim. Like things will need to change, right? Undoubtedly, we'll need to be able to do more with less, and these tools can be a part of that. You spurred so much good thought. The last thing I'll say is that, innovation in my experience, like I need to be taking action, right? I can't just pontificate. I need to take an action in a controlled setting, fall down, get back up, keep moving, iterate. And what my advice, bouncing off your advice, would be, right, to our listeners is like, just get started, take a small step.
David, I think you will enjoy this conversation. I will get back to your points.
Love it. So Inga, let's hear a little bit more about yourself, right? I know, we talked before we went live just about, I heard a little bit of German in your accent, right? Still, but you've been in Sweden now 20 years. I know you've had a few different roles. Take us through your journey as a CIO, where you started out and how you got to the point that you're at in your career today.
Yeah, I came into my career started about 30 years ago. So I'm some years in this industry, on different industries right now. And I got fascinated by technology right up from the start. So I'm a civil engineer, and I joined Ericsson to really explore the opportunities these days. For about 30 years ago, when mobile technology actually found its way into Europe. And being part of this transformation was very excited. And I was happy to help the company making money, but also took responsibility for a large scale SAP project. And that's where how I ended up in IT. So later on, I moved to Sweden, done some global programs, and was working with global responsibilities on both e-business and these kind of things, and business to business. And then I moved on to Adidas, worked with Adidas for 7 years, and with this, the CIO for the Nordic and Central Europe region for quite some time, and joined a large scale retailer and wholesaler in the Nordics for about 10 years, and was in another CIO position there. So, yeah, and 5 years with Chicago now, as CIO, CDO. So that's my story.
Over the course of your journey, Um, what was one of the most important things that you learned personally, professionally, or otherwise? And if you're thinking about life before learning that, after learning that, would love to hear what comes to mind.
When I was at Adidas Group, we had a kind of secret code on the executive level in the company, and that was coming in through a guy called Professor Dr. Warshawski. He's based in Switzerland and the US, and he brought in the idea of things are the way they are, so things you can't change, you better accept, right? This was really a key learning in my life, until I found out that when you make it and you accept a very significant change in life that is obviously not positive, but you still deal with it and you can relate to it, and you move into a new comfort zone and you feel okay, there's a risk that you start accepting the new situation as well. And you may not take the next step and try to change it anyhow. And what I've experienced is that, and this is what I've learned in life. So you have to make a step out of a significant life challenging problem and feel good in a new comfort zone, but to not accept that things are not changeable. And as technology is now coming in with complete new ways of solving problems, uh, compared to what we have seen 5 years ago. So technology is helping you to get out of this comfort zone and to change on things you imagine it could not change before. And I think this is my key learning. And if you can see that perspective, you may grow into a new comfort zone.
Wow, one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite books is "Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today." In my experience, in the universe, nothing happens by mistake. And that's more, I guess, a little, hoo-ha or whatever. But, it's true in my experience because the fact of the matter is, right, when I get fired from a job, like a client leaves us, or which doesn't happen that often, or, someone dies, or I get hit by a car, right? I have no I have no idea if that incident is truly good or bad, right? Because ultimately, once I reach a level of acceptance about what's happened, there's this opportunity or this wisdom, this perspective that can come from it if I take the certain steps that can serve to be invaluable, such that my greatest moments of transformation as a leader and as a human being came out of my darkest moments, truly. So, and I don't think it has to be that dramatic for everyone either. But I would agree with you because I like how you kind of went through the nuance of like, yes, acceptance, but also, okay, what's that next right action? And can I shift to that next level? Right. Is there a time, Ingo, that sticks out in your mind that you were challenged or you had something fail or you had a personal hardship, but ultimately you took away one of those profound kind of lessons?
Yeah, I think it was about 22 years ago. It was at the birth of our sons. We have twins, and the first one was born with a genetic problem that is only happening 1 in 50 million people. So, and this is causing him to be, from a cognitive and physical perspective and social perspective, to be at the lowest possible level of, of living as an individual. So he's not able to do anything. So, and then and being confronted with the situation of having two sons at the same time, one just flourishing and everything is wonderful, and the other one um, at the brink of really a disruptive experience without knowing what was coming. I had to adjust to the situation and forget myself to grow out of it, to find a greater purpose with life. And that was actually helping me to accept the situation. So things are the way they are. I accepted to not be able to change it for 12 years until I started looking into this problem differently. And now I'm working very intensively with how I can change it. So this is my story. I'm really happy sharing it. So it makes a lot of sense to me. And the purpose that I found in life is much bigger than anything else I was actually having before, because now my purpose in life is to make sure that my second born son will not end up with the same kind of problems as I and my wife, um, taking care of our son 24/7 hours a day. So this is my mission. I really want to change the world to make sure that this is not going to be his problem as significantly as it is mine.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I mean, you said a few things that were really impactful to me. One, what I heard was kind of like, it's not about me, right? Like it's about this larger purpose. And like, how significant is that? Like when I was younger, I had a tendency to make everything about me. It's like, oh, this is happening to me. You know what I mean? Right. And like, meanwhile, it has nothing to do with me, right? It has to do with, in your case, your beautiful son who's born with this hardship. But what a beautiful thing that you could use that again as a moment to create this larger purpose for yourself. I try to have these kind of real conversations as often as I can, and I have a group of kind of people that I can reach out to get with about this kind of stuff. And just when people deal with these kinds of things with their children, it just always like stirs me because I have two young daughters. They're both healthy. They did have a few septal defects, but like, thank God nothing's come of it yet. knock on wood, but just, it makes everything else so insignificant. You know what I mean? Just family to me, my family and the life that we have together, like, that's why we do the rest of it, or that's why I do the rest of it, is so that I can be with them. And, I've learned to take my ego out of it in a big way, right?
I love the way you look at it physiologic. Oh my God. Um, I'm getting emotionally engaged here. So, but your way of looking at it is really very interesting, and I love it because it is really the more when you find the answer to the why and the bigger purpose. Sounds a bit weird if you haven't been through this, but it actually helps a lot to be as strong as you need, not for yourself but for others, and you have to enjoy yourself to be that strong. And it's much easier when you find that external purpose rather than finding it in yourself.
100%. When I made it about myself, it was very unfulfilling. And in my experience, like, it was never enough. There was always the next thing, the next award, the next client, the next accomplishment, the next dollar. Right now, since it's no longer about that, I can just exist and not be tied to this ever moving goalpost, you know, and still have goals, right? I still have goals, and we still strive for excellence, and like that doesn't have to change, but it's I'm not looking for my fulfillment from that, right? Really cool. Ingo, I want to talk about what you guys are up to at Green Cargo, because I was really psyched to be able to get you guys on the line here. Before we do, I always just like to ask, favorite book or literary piece, either that you've been reading recently or all time, your choice.
Yeah, I think, I start with my own book that I've written recently, published in April 23. The book is called Digital Composable Enterprises. So it's my favorite book. I read it, I think, 30, 40 times, and it's my first book. And
Wow.
you can find it on Amazon, and it was actually um, my first book to learn how to write books, and it became a kind of, you know, um, a passion, and I really wanted to make it great, and I think I've succeeded at least to make it good. So the book is about the challenges of doing digital transformations differently. And the next book I love even more is the book I'm going to write, which is the one we talked about without calling it a book. And this is about a book I'm going to publish in early 25, which is about disruptive technologies being used to empower human autonomy at scale. So to solve unsolvable problems. And I also have a book that I haven't written. So I'm working on the second book. So most books are not written by myself. And this one is from Samuel Huntington. It's called The Last Place on Earth. It describes the race to the South Pole between Scott and Amundsen, one day actually demonstrating different leadership styles and different definitions of success. And it's a it's a very it's a very difficult to read book, but it tells you a lot about leadership. So this is my favorite book.
Wow. Very cool. Now the question is, did AI help you write the book at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
AI would not.
I love it.
Yeah, AI would not come up with the problem. But when I write something and I think, look, Ingo, it's not really good, and you need to improve your writing. Then I ask, GPT-4 said, can you improve without changing my words? And actually, the result is much better.
I talked I talked with another author the other day about how writing just like from scratch a book that like sounds and looks and feels like it's written by an author, not so much, but for editing actually does quite a good job.
Yes, the book could never be produced by a GPT-4 or GPT-5 because the model would never know about the problems I'm actually bringing with me. So, yes.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to check that out. So So Ingo, let's talk a few minutes about your current role. So you're the CIO and CDO at Greenheart Cargo. You know, you oversee things globally. Talk to me a little bit about your vision for the organization, maybe some of the key initiatives you guys are working on, just key people into what you guys are up to.
I think it's time to talk about cool stuff now, David.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have one exciting thing that we should definitely look into. This is a groundbreaking AI project. So we're currently developing a cloud-based platform and using OpenAI. So we trained an OpenAI system, OpenAI against a graph database, which is from Neo4j. This is a Swedish graph database company leading in graph technology. And we have created a digital twin of our core business model, meaning that everything that's happening within the company, the trains we're running, the wagons we are running, the rail yards we are serving, the orders we are booking, the contracts we are having, everything, the people we are having or not having, everything is in that system in this digital twin. So we have built this model, connected to external data sources, and using all of that information from the infrastructure provided through the whole of Europe. So we have every detail in that database and train the AI system against it, and we can solve problems we've never been able to solve before, that no one else in our industries is able to solve. So we built a real-time digital twin. So we're currently implementing this project. We tested and verified it's working, and it's a low budget project, David.
that's crazy. I'm really excited to hear some of the results of the problems that you guys solve once you really get humming. We might have to have a follow-up on that. What about any key challenges you guys are facing as an organization today? What's anything that you've had to overcome, maybe leading out of COVID or otherwise?
Yeah, I can tell you about the transformation that we are going through. So when I joined the company 5 years ago, we basically had nothing under control at IT. But now we are really running large scale projects. So this is including a mainframe replacement program, a 50-year-old mainframe system. Another mainframe, the core mainframe system for our production, is going through a modernization. So we're moving it into the cloud in our own Azure cloud environment, running it with our own team. And we are replacing an SAP platform at the same time. We're also implementing new core SaaS application for the core of our production, and an AI system from a US-based company actually specialized on railroad operations. We're doing this project simultaneously, doing data-driven transformation at the same time. We're running a lot of development projects, and really making sure we're building the composable digital infrastructure that is the foundation, where we augment all of the new stuff into the disruptive technologies, the SaaS technologies, the stuff that we're building. And it is like the AI coming into the digital infrastructure, not as a separate element, as a satellite somewhere out there that it can only be used for one purpose. No, it comes in and then we scale it. So we can solve with those systems and the AI technology that I talked about, we can solve problems in a scalable way. We can scale the investments. We can scale and then and really, look at this like an ecosystem. And the more we do, the more we can get out. It's exponential. It's weird, but it's really something I wasn't aware about that it's possible. It's only possible because we have great and highly skilled and talented people in my team.
Yeah, I mean it's wild to hear about, and admittedly, like I haven't talked to as many people, in your industry as I would have liked to have, but just the stuff that a number of quite industrial companies are doing is just remarkable. I remember the first time I learned about and obviously you guys are kind of transportation industrial, but the first time I learned about John Deere, right? My little brother is a very outdoorsy mechanic, I think I hear John Deere. I think the tractor, the old tractor that sits in the backyard, right? No, no, no. Right. Like the stuff that they're doing with AI and IoT and like tillable land and just crazy. So the fact that you guys are doing all this, like a train company, right? A cargo company, it's just remarkable.
Thank you. I think it's like, having great people that you can help to grow, also to grow out of their comfort zones and be accountable for the actions, create the trust within the teams that they really want to drive their vision connected to the bigger vision, and allow them to be innovative and explorative in the way they use technologies, but make sure they all work on the same principles. And when you get this into place, really make sure that you have full control, that you build autonomous behavior into everything, not just the decision making, but also autonomy in terms of technology, meaning that you want to move away from the traditional way of looking at IT and sourcing things, right? This is what we do because the more we become independent from traditional sourcing partners, the more we flourish, the more we see things possible. So we run the mainframe for 30% of the cost when we run in our own cloud center of excellence. The board of directors was really surprised when we presented the business case. We said, we give you back 70% of the cost of running a mainframe. And they said, but how? Yeah, we do it on our own. You cannot run the mainframe. That's what they said. And we said, we will. But it's like you do the innovation on one hand, the real cool stuff, but then you use the same infrastructure to run the mainframe. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been having the same conversation with a lot of organizations about, moving different elements of their technology stack to the cloud, because here there's plenty of organizations that have paid managed service providers or other, value added resellers millions of dollars on top of their, inherent operational cost to maintain the infrastructure. Right? Like just watch those blinking lights in the data center somewhere, or not really watch them, just like, you know, you're paying them almost just in case in most instances. And that cost is unnecessary. As we move to the cloud, it's in the cloud. We don't need somebody to manage it anymore. So, we're seeing that 30% impact for a lot of different companies right now. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I think that's great that companies actually taking this step. And if you talk about principles, the principles that we are using, they're more important than a strategy, because the strategy comes out of what you said in the beginning, David. I think the incremental approach, so the way to find solutions while you move forward, and the ability to make continuous adjustments to while you're making progress, realizing that you will always be too late, but never too early. And I think you need to accept this. It's a leadership style that you need to share with your team and find acceptance for, because it is a very difficult way of running a business and transforming technology.
It is, but I mean, if I went back, right, 5 years ago or 3 years ago, and I looked at a lot of organizations' IT roadmap for 3 to 5 years from that point, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what the hell is this? Like, we've leapfrogged this 3 times over. So no, we're not doing this. Right. But that was on that was the roadmap. That was the strategy. Like, so I think like you're saying, it is difficult, right? Cause we do need foresight and strategy to a certain extent. But I love that you're instilling these principles in your people. Cause what I hear, right, is you're creating a culture of innovation where people aren't afraid to take a chance and to, pivot and to innovate. It's hard. It's hard to do that. Right. And I mean, you also really keyed on it being about people. I think that's also so huge. Most of the leaders that I admire the most really harp on that. And I've, as we scale our business, have really given that careful thought, because it's become uh, really clear to me how crucial that is. What you said about autonomy and creating this thing where you're no longer managing people, right? You're you're inspiring people and you're kind of conducting the orchestra to a certain extent, but all the people are players in their own right, right? They're thriving and they're able to kind of continue to level up in their own way.
I think, I was actually asking myself, how can I measure success, and how can I understand that this principle of running an organization this way, based on those three principles, autonomy, trust, and accountability, is actually working. And I found out that when I have to help people to stop doing things and slow them down, then I succeed as a leader, because it's like you have to control the energy rather than to bring in energy. It's a completely different impact that you can make as an organization, because they will do their very best every moment, and you do not have to control it. And what is the purpose of setting goals in January for the year, and then people do not remember in February? How different is a process where you have an organization having their understanding about, we have a vision, but these are my goals. And I want to perform on those ideas and visions I have to contribute to the bigger one. And then they all accelerate. And this famous AI project was not planned as an innovation. It came out of another project where a very clever architect, his name is Anders Bergquist, came to me and said, Ingo, I have a very cool idea of innovation that we could apply based on my findings with draft technologies and OpenAI. And this is how this project started. We did not plan for it. This all the stuff we're doing comes out of the heart of people, and from their brain and from their imagination.
So cool. I'm gonna steal your guys' idea and try to recreate it somewhere. We'll see how it goes. Now this has been awesome, Ingo. We got a couple minutes left here. Um, one of my last questions would be, where do you see the transportation, industrial, cargo industry going in the future, and or what do you think will be some of the biggest changes as time passes?
Can I answer with giving in two different ways? The first would be like, I think the industry needs to transform completely, from transporting goods to becoming a digital engine for the future of economies. Because I think we're gonna have to look at it different. And it's like it does not really necessarily need to be the train that will do the transport for you. It should be the best option for everyone in the society, that you manage your transportation as effectively for the environment as possible. And I think the train transport and the environment that we are creating is the best to do that, but not for every transportation, of course. And I think when I would look into the future, what would be the biggest changes that I would expect to happen? It is a change that goes across all industries. And now here comes the surprise, the second answer. Like, I think this is about, again, being on the surface, as we started our discussion. Um, CEOs and boards do not recognize uh, what's going on. So their strategies will not work, and they continue to do it the way they do. So their leadership and skills will not be enough to help the companies to move ahead. And I'm very much concerned about what I see and what I hear from my colleagues and friends, and in discussions internally. And I believe that the change will be more disruptive than anyone may anticipate, and it will continue to happen under the surface, again, unrecognized by the majority of people in business. And executives that will not understand technology in an explorative and innovative way, so as your podcast is actually promoting, uh, will have a very hard time. They will not recover. They will continue, but they will not recover from a leadership perspective in the industry. So I'm very concerned about their inability to understand that change and deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, understandably. So just have to wait and see. At least you guys are clearly leading the charge here. So, but again, Ingo, this has been awesome. The last question I just always like to end with is, if you could go back 5, 10, 15 years in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
The first 10 years, quit my job and start working in the AI industry. And in addition, learn how to write books because I'm passionate now about writing books. And 5 years ago, invest in the business idea that I developed these days and discuss with potential investors. But they told me that large language models were not ready for what I was actually thinking of. And I should have not given up.
Love it. Um, Ingo, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much, David. It was a great pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week.